We're looking at the unit circle. So I'm going to start with a coordinate plane. And so we know for the coordinate plane, this is just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, then -1, -2, -3, -1, -2, -3. But to create our unit circle, I'm going to just start at 0, 0 and go to the right one, up one, left one, and down one, and draw a circle. Well, look how beautiful that circle is. So what we've just created here is the unit circle. And so unit, 1 unit, I went 1 unit to the right, 1 unit up, 1 unit left, and 1 unit down. And what we're going to do is zoom in. So imagine that you're taking your 2 fingers and just zooming in. And what happens is the rest of our coordinate plane is going to go away because I'm just going to zoom in so that I only see my circle. And that creates the circle that we're actually used to seeing. So it's a circle with everything around it gone. And so we're going to look at the 4 points that we identified. So from my origin, when I move to the right one, I know that that is 1, 0. When I go up one, I know that that is 0, 1. Left one is -1, 0, and down one is 0, -1. So that creates the 4 famous points that we're going to be looking at today. I'm going to call them our star players. So when I went to the right one, this is 1, 0. Up one is 0, 1. Left one was -1, 0. And down one was 0, -1. So this lesson is going to get us comfortable with our star players, our 4 points. These are going to what we call our famous points. And we're going to try and get comfortable moving around them and seeing what happens if we're not on these direct 4 points and taking a walk around the unit circle. So as of now, here we go. We know for a fact that our 4 famous points, boom, 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 our star players are there. What we don't know as of now is anything that's outside of there. For example, if I ask you to estimate where these points fall on our unit circle. So the only ones that we know for sure are our 4 star players. Everything else is an estimate as of now. So if you take a look over here, I drew our unit circle kind of unzoomed out so that we could see that what I'm asking you to do is identify that point right there. That is where A is. So you'll see that on our coordinate plane is not on 1 and is not on 1 either way. So it's going to be some sort of decimal. So what I like to do is kind of label the halfway point. So if this is from 0 to 1, halfway is going to be 0.5. Okay, here we go. So that's about halfway. And then I know halfway up is 0.5 as well. Now, when you're drawing your circles on your own, it's important to have a pretty good circle and be able to make some pretty good estimations. When it comes to estimates, we have to be a little careful. We may not always get the same answer every time because it's an estimate. For example, if you look at my x-axis here, I can see that that halfway point, I didn't do a very good job. So let's see if I can try to fix that. Oh boy, here we go. Boop. All right, yep, that's a better halfway point. Okay, so that means I can estimate where this point A is. So I'm just going to go to point A and draw a straight line down and a straight line across because I want to try to figure out what that coordinate point is. So from here to here is 1. Halfway is 0.5. This is a little bit after 0.5, about 0.6. So that's the x coordinate. So that's about 0.6. And then if this is halfway and going all the way up is 1, that's almost at 1. That's about 0.8, 0.9. Let's call it zero point 0.8. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing for the point B. So I'm going to label halfway this way and halfway because I want to see about where does point B land. So now you want to be careful because I'm moving to the left here. So this is -0.5 over here and -0.5 down. So let's see where B is. So I'm going to go up to the x coordinate. So that's pretty close to 0. I would say that's about 0.1, zero point 0.2. Excuse me, -0.1, -0.2. So I'm going to say -0.2. And then when I go across, that's really close to that -1. And I want you guys to make sure you understand that unless I am exactly on my star players, unless I go exactly down 1, I'm not at -1. I'm just really close to it. So that's about -0.9. You don't have to get too fancy and say -0.99, -0.91. We're not doing any of that. We're just going to call it -0.9. Let's scroll down. A quick fact about the unit circle. When we're walking around the unit circle, that's called the circumference, and the circumference of any circle is always 2 pi r. Well, for our unit circle, we went one to the left, one up, one down, one to the right. So our radius is 1. So the circumference of our unit circle is 2 pi times 1, which is just 2 pi. So that's a really important fact that you'll need not just now, but for later as well. When you want to walk the distance around the unit circle, that circumference is 2 pi. Other people know it as 360 degrees, but that's not the circumference. That's how many degrees a unit circle is. So as far as the circumference, you'll always say 2 pi. Okay, so we're back to looking at our star players again. And so if they are our star players, they're our favorite player, then we have to know more than one fact about them. So here's what we know. I know that since the circumference is 2 pi, if I go all the way around the circle, then I've walked 2 pi, we'll call it miles. So I walked 2 pi miles. So if we're going to take a walk, we want to note that we're always going to start at this 1, 0, and then you always walk counterclockwise. So think about a clock. Which way do you walk? We're always going to walk that way. Make a little G. Walk counterclockwise. That's how you're going to walk around the unit circle. And so what I know is that if I go all the way around, that's 2 pi. So I don't want to go all the way around. Uh-oh. Eraser. I'm just going to walk halfway. So if I go halfway around my unit circle, then I just walk pi miles. The whole way is 2 pi, so halfway is just pi miles. So that's important. That means that my star player over here, his other nickname is going to be pi. Well, if I walk half of that, so just halfway, then I walked half of pi. So instead of saying half of pi, we call that pi over 2. That is half of pi. That's pi halved. So now the tricky spot. Well, if I walk pi over 2, that's here, and then I go another, that's 2 pi over 2. Then I go another, and I stop here. Well, now we're 3 pi over 2, and that's my next famous stop. So here we go. We're at 0, and then pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and if I go all the way around again, I'm at 4 pi over 2. But wait a minute, 4 pi over 2 is just 2 pi, just like we said. So we knew that if we walked all the way around, we would be walking 2 pi. So here we are. Okay, so that means our star players have a nickname. So my coordinate point 1, 0, I know that as 0. My coordinate point 0, 1, I know that's also pi over 2. And then if I keep going, I'll be at pi and go again to my third stop, 3 pi over 2. We're going to add on a little bit more information about our star players. So 0 is 0, no problem. What we know is pi. I know that pi is also known as 3.14. Well, 3.1415926, but we normally round it off at 3.14. So wait, if I know that pi is 3.14, then I can circle back and figure out what half of pi is. I would just divide it by 2. So that tells me up here, this is really 1.57, an estimate, if you will. So I got 0, 1.57, 3.14. 3 pi over 2, well, that's pi times 3, and then divided by 2, and you get about 4.71. And then to round it off all the way at the end here at my 2 pi, that's also 6.28. So 3.14 times 2. So I want you to think of these things as nicknames of the same thing. You could also think of it as like a house. So if I'm trying to direct you to my house, I could say, okay, you're going to walk pi over 2 blocks is going to be the red house, and my address is 1234 Math Avenue. So I'm taking you to the exact same place, and I described it in 3 different ways. That's all we're doing here. So this 0, 1, that's also pi over 2. Pi over 2 is just 1.57. Over here, when I go over to -10, well, that's also pi, which we know is 3.14. So what you'll have to do is just know the nicknames of all of these star players. And you will have to memorize it because it's not something that would be given to you. The only thing that would be given to you is possibly a blank circle, just so that you can make good estimates. So now that we've labeled our unit circle with our first star players, I'm going to stop the video here. And in the next video, we'll start taking a walk around the unit circle and seeing how we stop.